We're going to do another makeover today in the garden, and I'm slowly chopping up pieces of my garden and turning them into something civilised. So if you have seen some of the makeovers I've done so far this year, there's so many more to come. But before I take you in for a makeover in another small area, we work bit by bit, I wanted to talk to you about something that has just happened that kind of pulled me to a stop this morning. So yeah, so let's go there first. Savings here in Melbourne, and you can get up pretty early and get out there just on sun up, and it's a really nice time to go out there and do things. And it's cooler now. It's actually just started to cool off this past week, and we've had like an extended summer, so it's lovely and cool. You can get out there, you can do the hard labour stuff, you know, the heavier stuff that get you sweating, and it's much nicer to be doing those jobs when it's cool. So we've had a lot to do lately. If you don't know the backstory on last year, just very briefly, I fell behind by about 6 months because of something that had happened, and just before the end of the year I started to try and regain control of the garden, and I've been slowly working forward from there, and we're making progress. But at the same time, I'm trying to beautify the garden this year. It's not just about food production, not just about improving the soil, but to actually create spaces that feel good spaces. Mind you, the garden does that already, but yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. So each little area that I weed or clean up or reimagine, I'm trying to add something extra or plan ahead, and I'm sharing that on my channel. So we've done a few areas, and today we're going to be working around my apple tree and just outside the new wire bed that we have. So that will be good to get that under control and get the weeds out there, get the junk out there, and make that something really sweet with a little seat. But I've been working in the garden this morning, moving the chicken fencing, and I felt myself get quite overwhelmed. So I'm planning forward. I've had a lot I've done, but I tend to get these visions of, you know, I'll do this and I'll do that, and I'll plant this and I'll plant that, and I want to do this, and it can get overwhelming, and I can all of a sudden come to a standstill. So that happened this morning, where I'm going, I must do that, and I've got to do that and that before that happens, and there's, you know, a whole lot of jobs were whirling through my head. So I decided, you know what, the best thing to do is like you can do in your own home. When things get overwhelmed and life becomes a bit overwhelming, and your house gets a little bit out of control, the best thing you can do is just like clean up, declutter a bit, clean up, and sort of, you know, just start somewhere and just do those mindless things until you know, either your energy returns or you're in a better mind space. That's what I did. I walked around the garden and I started to look at the stuff that was kind of left out or needed to be put away, and then I found that a little bit overwhelming, to be honest, because I'm thinking again, gee, I need to do that, that and that. But I told myself, what I always tell myself is just start with something, because what I have noticed over the past few weeks is that it doesn't actually take a lot of time to do something significant in your yard or on your property. So it's amazing how much half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour will do. And I spent a lot of time, well, each year I spend a lot of time decluttering and sorting things out in my home and my studio, and I like to have things organized. So that is something, a tool that I use in that case, where I kind of set a timer for 20 minutes and then I see what I can do in that 20 minutes, and there's no pressure, I only have to do 20 minutes. But it's amazing at the end of that time how much you get done. And so I've taken that into the garden, and taking the pressure off the big picture, off the big jobs, or I'll start there, off the big jobs. We've got a massive amount of soil and mulch that was delivered recently, and that's a lot to move. And that's the way I've been dealing with that, just saying I'll just move them, just work on a barrow a day or something like that, and or just do a couple of barrow loads today, and it takes the pressure off and it gets a bit done, and you're more inclined to actually do a bit more than what you think, because the pressure's off, you're inclined to keep going until you feel like stopping. So that's the way I've been dealing with it. Now, last year I had actually recorded quite a few videos which I haven't published yet, to encourage others in that area, and I did some cleanups in the garden where I dedicated 30 to 40 minutes in the garden, and just to show you how much can be done in that period of time. Basically, that's the way I'm dealing with the changes in the garden now, and today we'll be doing the same thing. I'll be spending a certain amount of time, and I will actually time it so I can let you know how long it took, and change that one patch, that one area, and we'll see what we can do in that time. But I just want this to encourage you that just to back off the pressure and look at the little things, because they all add up, they accumulate. It's like interest in the bank, it just accumulates, and before you know, you don't get much interest in the bank, do you? Not a great analogy, but it depends on how much money you got. But it's the same in the garden. Just if you plant a few seeds a day, at the end of a month you've got a massive amount of stuff growing. And if you weed for 5 minutes a day, at the end of the week you've weeded for 35 minutes. It's that kind of scenario. So it's a helpful way of thinking that I find alleviates a lot of pressure for me, and I find I 10x what I do because of that pressure being alleviated, and I get a lot done and achieve a lot every time I get out there. So let's go and achieve something now and get into it. There's an area just outside this area that we've started to build or get going, and it all around these beds I have to weed and get it under control. But see this section here, it's right near the entrance to my wire beds. There is bad weeds, and amongst all my strawberries, that's mainly pine berries, and I've got a bit of calendula growing, which I've been taking the seeds and throwing it around the place, and there's a couple of broccoli in there, and in a pot that has just gone all leggy. I did actually cut some the other day off there, but it's been chewed on and stuff, and I was thinking about maybe giving that to the chickens. I could keep trimming it and see if I get little broccoli heads out of it, but it does need to be moved, so I don't think it'll be happy to be moved, because the roots would have grown through the pot by now into the soil. But behind here we've got a rosemary bush. I have taken cuttings of the rosemary so that if by moving that bush I lose it, I've got some cuttings started, and I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that they do actually take. They're looking pretty good. So, but there's a rosemary I want to save, so I need to dig out some of these. But all of this section is going to be not garden. So what I want to do is I want to put a little paved area here that I'm going to hand paint some tiles for it and decorate it. Then I'm going to use this little bench against there, and then maybe put some nice pots around it. So that will be a nice sitting area, and it's just near the apple tree. Now the apple tree has been cut back. There's comfrey growing up under the apple tree, and there's suckers always coming up from it that I've got to keep cutting back. There is a bit of mint that was in a pot that has jumped ship, but there's a bit of mint there, and alpine berries here, pine berries further up. Okay, so I am going to save some of those, but what I want to do is actually remove most of it except for what's around the apple tree. So from here, I'm going to put an edge around here. I'm going to borrow the bricks from over there for now, because that bed has got overgrown with young berries that have gone wild, and I've got some scarlet runners in there. But we're going to take that back so we can get through here and even brush cut if we needed to. So this is going to become a bigger, wider walkway. So I just want a small barrier around the tree, a little platform just there for the bench, and then all that cleared away. So this is my challenge today, to clean it up. As you can see, there's pots here that need to be moved. It's got a bit junky. I have been dumping stuff here onto the bench from cleaning up other areas. So we're going to clean all of that up and weed around the tree, put a border around it, and save some plants, and the rest can go. Okay, so this is what we're doing. I'm going to cut the mint back. I'm going to leave it in the ground for now. I know that mint's notorious for spreading, and it has tried to spread. It's dropped little babies, which I've been able to give away to people that want it. I think that's spearmint or peppermint in there. I'll have to smell it to tell you. But I'm going to cut it back for now. I will probably weed out anything that goes beyond the barrier that I create here. And I'll weed in here. But all the junk's gone for now. So we'll start working here. I'll work here and then move back towards there and see how much we get done. But first I'm going to use a fork to just loosen the ground a bit, just in case it's hard there. I have had the chickens in there at a little while back, so they've been scratching around in there. So I don't know if there'll be too many seeds in there, but I'm going to loosen the ground so I can pull that really bad grass out that we've got, and hopefully that will make it easier. I will say, in some areas that fork did absolutely nothing. It probably penetrated about an inch. That was where the grass is, closer to the edge. And where there was plants, where there was strawberry runners and there'd been pots, and there was actually plants growing, the fork was able to get in a lot deeper. And that is a classic example of why, if you've got the ground covered, if you've got lots of diversity in the soil with plants, it improves the soil. So that is the only reason why it's softer in one place and harder in the other. So it will be difficult to get all this grass out, and I will probably have to re-weed that section, but at least it'll be a much smaller section to keep control of now once I do this, and we'll be able to kind of brush cut the rest. So just weeding this part, I found I kept on coming out and out and out because it is peppermint, which I love for tea, and I'll put these up now. But the peppermint had gone nuts. Like, you can see how strong the roots are. And it kind of grows the same way as a plant does. It just runs along the ground and pops up little plants along. See how it runs and roots all the way along. So there's lots of peppermint there that I can pot up, but it will be in the ground too, so I'll have to be watching that. The comfrey I'm going to cut back too. I'm going to use that as mulch when I'm finished. Comfrey is a fantastic fertiliser for the garden, so I'll be doing that. But I've got this section done here, and I'll move around there, but I won't record any more of the weeding. You've seen enough to know that we'll come back when all of this is done. Okay, it took me an hour to, in between chasing off king parrots from my bees and feeding the chickens about 2.5 big tubs of, they're chopping whole little branches off over there, those king parrots. And they got my beans this morning, they picked them for me. So it took an hour, and this is what we've got. So I've weeded all the way around, and as I've weeded out the strawberries, I've replanted them in. So there's a lot of strawberries you can't see. I just broke the comfrey and put the comfrey leaves around there, and just some of the chop and drop from the apple tree I've just put on top. That was acting as quite a good compost actually on this side. And so I've just put it back on top. But you can see there, we've got a long ways to go. But in an hour, the tree section's finished. So I've got to jump over to an appointment soon, but I'll be able to put the bricks around there, and I'll just add probably a little bit of compost on top. And that little section at least will be done, yeah, in just over an hour. The chickens are happily chewing on that plant, and the weeds, I let them chew on those weeds, and then when they're finished with them, then I dispose of them. And I found lots of tags in the garden and pegs that have, I don't know how they travelled from the washing line. I think they've travelled from pegging netting actually. So a bit of junk in there, and some cuttings to pot up. I have planted some of those strawberry runners in here. I'm going to pull them up. They're not really planted in, they're kind of sitting in there planted. I'm going to lift them out, or some of them out, and I'm going to put some fresh soil in here. I'm not going to go above the level on that tree, but I am going to put some fresh soil in here because I actually want to put some flower seeds in here as well. So I think that'll be pretty come winter when the flowers are out, or spring.
So this is the bed part finished. It's not exactly central. The tree isn't center to the round section, and it's not perfect. It's a little bit natural, but we needed the space to walk past, so I've kind of offset it a little bit. But the section behind that has to be weeded, I was working on that, but I will actually also use the chickens to weed that area. So I'll remove the plants from that I need from there, and when the plants are out, I will move the fences that I have for the chickens and mold it around that new garden bed and into that section I want weeded, and I'll let them have a good old play in there and a dig before I completely clean it. And this is something that I like to do with the chickens. I like to give them the fresh ground, and it takes a little bit of the work out for me. They pick through and eat a few bugs that they find, especially that area where I had that brassica, that there would be caterpillars probably in that area, and so they can have a good old scratch around and grab those for me, because I have quite a few white cabbage moth caterpillars that need eradicating. So I'm healing in the peppermint, and that means I'm basically just putting a lot of cuttings into that pot and covering it with soil and not worrying too much about, not being fussy about the cuttings. I do trim them back, and but overload the pot with a lot of cuttings. I'm going to do 2 pots here, and then later on, when I've got time, I can split them up and repot them. And I'll do the same for the strawberries that I collected, which are the wild strawberries. I'm pretty sure that that's what the wild alpine strawberries are, the ones I pulled up today. And then later I will pull up from where I'm pretty sure my pine berries are. They kind of grew into each other. They went crazy and headed for each other, so it's a little bit tricky to work out which is which until they actually fruit. So I'll keep an eye on what I save, and then label and divide, make sure I've got them sectioned off this time. Both the soil and this bush mulch slope up towards the edge of the corrugated iron. That allows for a little bit of shrinkage because it does tend to settle and drop, and also just gives the plants that I plant on the outer side a little bit more soil, and they're not competing so much with the tree. So I found the tag for it further down in amongst the weeds, and I've reattached it further up onto the apple tree.
Okay, ladies, let's see what I've done for you today. You've got a new yard again. Yes, you have. Good morning. Good morning. We're coming out to say hello. Come on. Come on. Out you come. One by one. Come and say hello. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Off you go. You can come too.
I did promise to tell you how long it took. So yesterday I would have spent probably about 2 hours creating that garden bed. And then there was another couple of hours spent amongst that, fixing up the chook pen and just a bit of random stuff. The next day I came into this area before the chooks got in there. I fenced it off here where I'm showing you with my shadow. That's the gate. So I can get in and out there, and the chickens can come into there and scratch around. They managed to dig up some spring onions I didn't realise were in there, so I picked them up and planted them somewhere else. And I dug up the rosemary. I trimmed it and brought all the rosemary inside to use. and I dug up a few wild strawberries and 45 pine berries. Well, I think they're pine berries. So I've put them in trays and some of them in a little decorative bird bath that my father made. So I've hugged the fence around that bed, right against those bricks, 3/4 the way around. You can see it here. And that's the beauty of using this fence. I can literally mould around my garden. Chickens can put their heads through and pick a certain length, so I have to be careful what it's against. But basically, I can section off parts of my garden, have them mow right to the edge. So there's the pine berries all potted up and in there. And I've left the rosemary on the bed there. So when I water it, the water goes through and waters the bed at the same time. Now I have something fascinating to show you just before we part ways for this video. But if you enjoyed keeping me company, please like and share and subscribe. So the other day, I opened the door of the wire beds and I found this cocoon. It has sticks attached to it, and when I did my research, I found that it was a type of bag caterpillar or bag moth. Now these moths are quite fascinating. The male has small wings and the body actually reminds me of pipe cleaners. But apparently the female has very small, almost no wings, although some information say that they don't have any wings, and they don't leave the cocoon. Instead, the female opens up the end of the cocoon and to eat, and then she kind of drags it behind her. So I'm assuming that they move from place to place. Now, when I cut the rosemary, I discovered it was on the rosemary and thought, when I did my research, I thought, oh no, she's she's moved on to my rosemary. So I have taken it around the other side where it's safe, where I will remember it's there, and put her in amongst some geraniums for now. But on later inspection, I found that that cocoon was still in the Y bed. So there's two of them within a very close distance from themselves. So I'm hoping I haven't given them, the two cocoons is not a male and a female. I haven't just given them a forced divorce and they can find each other again. But for now, the cocoons are in safe places because you can't pull it off the surface or you can hurt the caterpillar. So I've left the one in the wire bed. The door doesn't jam it or anything. It's quite safe in there from birds particularly. And the other one is hidden amongst my plants. So I thought that was fascinating and I thought, why not film it and share it with you? So thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying some gardening time yourselves and I will see you next time. Bye for now.